Hello, boys and girls. Greg from the Scary Spirits podcast here to make you another cocktail. This week's cocktail is the Peeping Tom Collins. Very clever. And as always, is the featured cocktail in today's episode. I'm going to start with a cocktail shaker. No ice. To that, we're going to add half a lemon. And then one half an ounce simple syrup. Half an ounce. Apparently we're making lemon syrup. Then we're going to muddle. Next, we're going to add ice. And 1.5 ounces gin. This happens to be gin made right here in good old Cincinnati, Ohio. 1.5 ounces. Buy local, boys and girls. Then we're going to shake vigorously. Next, we're going to take our cocktail glass. We're going to take our frozen peep, put it in our cocktail glass. Then we're going to pour our cocktail in. Finally, we're going to top with soda water. There you have it, boys and girls. The Peeping Tom Collins. My peep is pink. Peeping Pink Tom Collins. Not bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the podcast. See you.
This week's movie on the Scary Spirits podcast, Peeping Tom, is an absolute showcase of red flags. For example, I don't know of any woman who would even talk to the main character Mark after a first meeting, let alone be alone with him for a date or be convinced to do a screen test, again, alone, after hours. But in this movie, they do. But the story demands it's not his fault. It's all his father's fault. But the dude needs therapy, and lots of it. Overall, it's a testament to the actor. The acting is really good, but I just couldn't get past the ick. And I don't understand how any woman could. Cheers.
Welcome to the Scary Spirits podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hello, boys and girls. I'm Greg,
Hi, everyone. I'm Karen.
and welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast, the podcast that combines the two very different yet highly compatible worlds of scary films and alcoholic spirits.
What could possibly go wrong?
Indeed. Karen, how are you?
I'm great. How are you, Greg?
Fantastic, as usual.
As usual. Do you think we don't remember? Okay, we'll go with that.
I'm good,
Sure,
Karen. I'm good. Thanks for asking.
it's what we do.
Karen, I believe this film was your choice, was it? Was it not?
It was.
And tell us, Karen, what film have you chosen for us this week?
I chose the 1960 film Peeping Tom.
Hmm. Any reason you chose that film, Karen? Other than Dr. Craig talked about it?
He did. It seems like it's part of film history somehow. But in addition to that, this episode comes out on April 9th, and this movie came out on April 7th.
I see what you did there, Karen.
Just trying to make you proud.
I'm going to stop doing that, just so you know, because there are too many films I want to see just because I want to see them. So that's what I'm going to start doing. Get ready, boys and girls.
Because we want to, damn it. We don't have to
right.
follow Greg's rules anymore.
I do this
That's
for
just
me, not for
stupid.
you.
That's just crazy talk.
All right, Karen, do you have a cocktail to go along with this film?
I do, and it's so exciting.
Yes, I'm sure it is. Go on, tell us all about it.
I don't like your tone. It's called the Peeping Tom Collins cocktail.
I see what you did there, Karen. How do we make it?
Well, first it has a little paragraph above it, which I really like. This is what happens on a drunken Saturday night. Peeping Tom Collins. But for real, I'd been experimenting with freezing peeps to see if I could deep fry them. That's a man after my own heart right
I know.
there.
I felt that, Karen. When I read
know,
that, I'm
right?
like, oh my God, I love this guy.
And make them still look chick shape. And then the boys came over and they saw the frozen peeps, and then we ran out of ice cubes.
Yeah, because, boys come over. That's the part I like the best.
Oh, see, not me. I like
Like
deep frying the
I'm not
peeps.
doing the peeps unless the boys come over and I'm out of ice.
Oh. But it's a nice, succinct, entertaining story.
It is. Yeah.
So you're going to need half a lemon, half an ounce of simple syrup, 1.5 ounces of gin, soda water, and frozen peep garnish. You're going to muddle lemon and simple sugar in a cocktail shaker, add ice and gin, shake vigorously, pour the cocktail mix over the frozen peep, and then top with soda water. It's cute and delicious. You can do a vodka Collins if you want.
I wish you'd have told me that before I went and had to buy a bottle of gin because I was out.
Well, that doesn't mean we won't. We'll use that.
All right, I'm sure we will.
But everybody here tasted it and thought it was really good. I like it.
It's better than I expected, which is probably going to be the theme for this evening. Spoilers, boys and girls.
Really?
Yes. Ooh, tune in to see if Karen disagrees. All right, should we give our friends and listeners time to make their own Peeping Tom Collins?
Absolutely.
Hold on. And we're back.
Yes, we are.
All right, Karen, might you have a brief synopsis for us of this film from 1960?
I do.
Do you remember 1960, Karen?
I do not.
Yeah, me either. It's way before our time. Way before our time. All right, Karen, tell us all a story about Peeping Toms in 1960. I'm sure it's fascinating.
Loner Mark Lewis works at a film studio during the day and at night takes racy photographs of women. Also, he's making a documentary on fear which involves recording the reactions of victims as he murders them. He befriends Helen, the daughter of the family living in the apartment below his, and tells her vaguely about the movie he is making. She sneaks into Mark's apartment to watch it and is horrified by what she sees, especially when Mark catches her.
Well, there you go, boys and girls. That's the movie.
Why do you need to watch it?
That's a good synopsis. That's
Yes.
probably the best we've ever had. All right, Karen, tell us everything you really enjoyed or were pleasantly surprised by in this film from way before our time in 1960.
It's really got a psycho vibe to it, I thought, but it's a little more groovy. It's got a grooviness to it. It's not beatnik, but it's got something that's a little more. I can't think of a better word
Karen,
than
when I'm
groovy.
reading my notes, you will hear the word groovy many times.
That's
Proceed.
that's the best word I could come up with. There's a lot of really cool cinematic shots in it. You can tell it's important to the director to make it artsy and to make it film forward. Like he's doing a lot of different things in there to kind of make it upper echelon or something. Almost, I don't want to say he's trying too hard, but there are really nice shots in it. A couple I was
Some of
very
us,
impressed with. It doesn't get to that point, but there's just a lot of it in there. Do you ever, it's like he's showing off what he knows. No, I like the different shots in it. As a photographer, I kind of like looking at the lighting setups and all that stuff. I think it's an interesting story. Childhood trauma turning into an obsession later in life. I think it's well cast. That's all I have. What do you have that you really liked?
first thing I wrote is nice shots. Next thing I wrote is artsy, but I wrote that because it's good artsy. You know, there's artsy and then there's good artsy and then there's artsy for being artsy, right?
It's very 60s.
This is good artsy. The cast is good. It's well cast. And I thought the acting was good. It was good for what they were doing. I mean, they're all a little over the top, maybe a little bit, but it's 1960, you know? We were over the top in 1960, apparently. And I really like the guy who played Mark. He's really good.
He's good.
I thought he was good. I thought the directing was good. I can see why Dr. Craig even said anything about this. And I looked it up in Dr. Craig's textbook, Robin Wood, on the horror film, and it's not even mentioned. But it
No, but you can
should
see
be.
why it's a teachable film.
Yeah, for
I,
sure.
yeah, I mean, it has a lot. I'm sure there's, again, a lot of imagery and things that we didn't catch because we're not in a film class, but it definitely has teachable things in it. I know that's very vague, but you can feel it when you're watching it, that it's a very intellectual kind of film, I think.
Anything you didn't like? Anything? Anything at all?
I think that the guy who played Mark was good, but I cannot buy that any female would spend any time with him whatsoever.
Well, that's
He's,
more on Helen than Mark.
but all of them. There's a bunch of, they all meet up, and he is such, he gives me the ick. And right away, I'd be like, no, never, not going to be
But
anywhere near him.
he has that striking
He's
face
handsome,
and
but
everything.
he's just
Blonde
too.
hair, blue-eyed, boy
The
next
whole
door.
time, I just didn't buy it. I didn't buy that anyone
I didn't think anyone would at the time
would
as either,
spend
but
any time with him whatsoever, except the prostitute who he paid or should have paid. Like, I get that, but the rest of them, I just didn't buy it. I just thought
he
it
seemed
was,
very nice at times, but he could turn on
he was just,
on a flick of a switch.
just not, and he was very careless, never locking his doors and all that. And Helen was supposed to be naive and she just sees all these things and she still loves him. And it's just, I think I'm a cynic.
Helen's mom is my favorite character in the
Yeah,
film.
no nonsense mom. I just didn't,
She's blind, but she can see.
yep, just didn't buy it. Just couldn't
But even
see.
that was included in this whole thing. I don't know.
Well, that's yes, that
It's
you
good
can
artsy. That's
open your eyes, right? And see what's right in front of you is a lot of what it's showing you. But he was just so creepy.
yeah.
The other,
Was he
and
any worse than Norman Bates?
yes,
Well, probably
but
because
she
he
didn't
was in
like Norman.
color.
But she didn't
Would
like
he
Norman
have
Bates.
been
She
worse
got
than
the ick
Norman
from him.
Bates than
He
Black and
didn't,
White?
but she didn't like him. These women were like,
She
oh,
didn't, but
okay.
they're very similar characters.
Yes, but he's a little more over the top. I'm just saying, as a woman, nobody I know would ever hang out with him or go anywhere with him. Like you can see it a mile away. That's why I think it was a little over the top because it was so out there. He didn't slip, he should have been mostly nice and slip into his weirdness. He was mostly weird and slipped into his niceness. And it was
But
like,
maybe that's the difference between 2025 and 1960 as well.
maybe, but
Maybe the
I don't think people were
women
weirder.
going to see this film in the audience did not quite feel that same way. They're
I
like,
think they
oh,
did.
shit.
No,
Well, yeah, I'm sure they would, but do you think they really thought that could happen? You know, that's the difference. It can happen now. And it could
well, I get
happen there then, but
it could always happen. See, I think that might be the difference between the male and the female perspective. It could always happen. We know it can always happen at any point. But I remember along that vein, my mom saw Silence of the Lambs. And you won't remember this part, but
oh,
one
I
of the
might.
girls gets captured because the guy says, hey, can you help me get this sofa into the van? And the girl says, yeah. And my mom called me and she
I
says,
remember that, Karen.
you would totally do
Yes.
that.
Yes, you
You would
would.
say, okay, sure, I'll help you. And that would be the end of you. So I think women always think, I mean, you would go to a certain point, but I think this was a little over the top. Like he was weird. The other thing is, I think, and this is 1960, and it's a criticism that can't be, it's of the time. You didn't really see anything happen, so you didn't really get that emotional response so much because you didn't see him do anything really. You didn't even, you saw their faces a little bit, but it wasn't enough. I think if it was made today, I think it would be so much more shocking because you would see more of the violence that was actually happening. I mean, we know it's there and it's bad enough with that, but I don't know. I
Yeah.
think it would have just,
So that's what I was about to ask. Do you need the gore to have it be effective,
no,
Karen?
but I think you need a little more gore than we saw.
Do you need blood and gore? Is that what you need?
Sort of. After watching 200 of these movies, probably, yeah, a little bit more.
I'm sorry, I've desensitized you.
Well, just a little to really push home what's happening because we don't really see. I mean, it's just you have to use your own imagination, and maybe I just don't want to imagine that. I don't know. Is there anything you didn't like?
No, not really. I think I've already argued with you. And I could go on even more. But I didn't miss the gore. I thought it was effective without it, personally.
I just didn't buy. Why she saw what he did. She saw the films. He admits he kills
Well,
people, and she
we
still.
assume, well, yes, we assume all that. We never see it, but they do confirm it
No, he
in the
says
dialogue. That's what I'm saying. He says it, but
he
go on.
tells her, and then she still.
But we don't see what she
Oh,
saw. How
but
many
she
of these
still holds
films
his
has he
hand when he's
done?
like doing. It was just. I don't know. I just didn't buy it.
Okay.
I just didn't see how any woman would be involved with him.
But
He's
I think
just,
they gave a little bit of the backstory about his father and the fear thing, and
yeah, his father.
she bought in as
Yeah.
she would because it's a movie from the get-go and was kind of even researching it at one point. But so okay, I didn't write anything that I didn't like about it. So there you go. There is no gore. There is zero blood.
There was some breasts.
We did have two bare breasts
So
at
that's,
the very end. And I'm shocked at that.
I
So
was shocked too.
so here's what I didn't like about it, Karen. So it has a title of Peeping Tom, right? With that, from 1960, you expect it to be titillating or, on edge or
Well, more
whatever.
peeping.
Yes.
There was not
No,
enough peeping.
none of that. Yes. I thought I had read in my research how controversial this film was, but
Well, there's kind of like I said, there's a lot of teachable moments in it, I think. And there's a scene in the little newsstand which has nudie girl pictures all over it. But
yes.
the men are going
Yeah,
in
just
for
going to get the newspapers.
newspapers, right? And that's kind of a reference to Peeping Toms, right? Because they're going in and they're buying these pictures, and then he wraps them up in educational book bags, which is hilarious. But it's like everybody's doing it. Like they're doing it. They're
Well,
just doing it in different
we
ways.
assume, but this guy has his own photographer and he's making his own photos, so he's cutting out the middleman. This dude is.
Yeah, but there's another photographer on set that's also taking pictures like that and selling. Like there's a lot of market for they're pin-up pictures, but I think the ones that the men are buying are what we see photographed are basically pin-up, but what the men are buying are nude pictures. But they're going in for newspapers and leaving with nude pictures. So they're peeping toms too, just in a different way. So there's probably a lot of repetitive of peeping toms in all different ways through the film, I would guess. The blind woman can see people who are actually looking into windows. It's, you know,
Wow, look at you, Karen.
teaching a class.
No,
Just
I
call me
learned something
professor.
there. I learned something there, Karen. Thank you, Dr. Karen, for.
It's like I could write the English paper on this one.
Yeah, I could too, but I think yours would be better. All right. What kind of cocktail rating you want to give this film? Unless there's anything else we need to discuss about it.
No, I think it's part of film history, and I definitely think people should see it. Especially, I wish I would have watched Psycho a little closer to it, to kind of really see. I think they're very similar.
I think Psycho was later, even though it was black and white. You know,
Was it? I bet they're pretty close.
if only I had a device to tell me that information. Same year, apparently. Look at that. But one's an American film and one's a foreign film. I guess you could say, but same ideas, but I'm not even sure that Psycho is the better film, but
Oh, I think it is.
okay. What kind of cocktail rating you want to give it, Karen?
I'd give it a two.
Okay, I'll go with that.
I'd give it a 2.5 because when I would like to hear from other women who watch this film and see if you'd have anything to do with that dude. But beyond that, I
He
think it's really good.
he seemed
I,
he had lots of issues.
I just kept looking at him and thinking, there's no way no way. There's no way. He was just, like I said,
I
if he
agree.
had switched, if he had been nice most of the time and let the other part of him come out sometimes, it would have been much better for me.
I agree. I do agree with that. But
But the point was
he
made,
played it the way he was told to,
I'm
and
sure. And
he was good.
the point was made. He was damaged. There's no question. You didn't have to think twice if he was damaged or not. When I first saw the mother, I was like, is she blind? I couldn't quite figure it out because, the TV's on and all these. And then I was like, okay,
I agree. Two cocktails, and that means it only took us two cocktails to get through it. I just did check the time a couple times,
it
but
did drag a little bit, just a little bit.
just a little. Just a little, yeah, it did drag a little. Not until it was half over did I check the time. And then about when there was 10 minutes left, I was like, God damn. Oh, 10 minutes. Okay. At that point, I was like, all right, let's get to it. But it did fairly soon.
Wrap it up. Wrap it up.
Because I think it's an hour and 40 minutes, right? It's 10 minutes more than the average, I would say. So
Back then.
even now,
Mm,
I think
movies are
they like
long
to
now.
keep things at an hour and a half.
And it could have cut. There are some scenes it could have cut.
All right, Karen, would you like to hear a review from the time?
I would like to hear a review from the, I know you probably don't have this, but a review from the time, and then because you said it was so controversial, and a review from much later, looking
Oh,
back. Because I bet it's more favorably viewed from now versus then. Do you have both? Look at you.
but one is very wordy.
You need to say as you wish and then do it.
One is very wordy and one is not.
Okay.
Do you want to guess which one is the more wordy?
The most recent one.
Yes. And I haven't even proofread it because I wasn't even planning to read it because it was so wordy, Karen.
Well, you read a highlight. So you're starting with the one from back in 1960.
Well, yeah.
Okay.
But first, I have to tell you, this has a 96% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes. 96. It has a 7.6 out of 10 on IMDb. No, crazy, right? What do you think Google users think, Karen?
90%.
83.
Really? Come on, Google.
Yeah. But that's kind of halfway between 96 and 76, ain't
True, but it used to,
it?
sorta.
The review I have is from Variety, of course, dated December 31st, 1959, because that's how they do all their archived articles. So this article came out in 1960, and it's kind of short, and I'm going to try to read it all. Bear with me, boys and girls. Anglo Amalgamated uploaded around $560,000 on making Peeping Tom, the biggest load of coin it had ever invested in one picture. It's all oil for stripped of its color and some excellent photography, plus imaginative direction by Michael Powell. The plot itself would have emerged as a shoddy yarn. Story concerns a young man who, as a boy, was used as a guinea pig by his father, a noted professor studying the symptoms of fear. The boy grows up becoming an insane killer obsessed with the desire to photograph the terror on the faces of his victims as he kills them. He also has an unhealthy craving for peeping at young lovers, hence the title. In between these activities, he has a regular job as an assistant cameraman in a film studio and a part-time job of photographing saucy pictures. This mixed up young man is played rather solidly by Carl Boehm. It is more the fault of the screenplay that the actor himself that one gets only a superficial glimpse into the workings of his mind. Anna Massey is charming as the girl who is one of his tenants and befriends him before she realizes that he is the killer. Maxine Audley, the blind mother, tackles a difficult, unrewarding role as well. I agree there. Brenda Bruce has a few good moments at the beginning of the film as a streetwalker who is his first victim, while Maura Shearer is effective as another of his victims, an ambitious bit player who is murdered while he is pretending to give her a screen test on a deserted studio lot. Yeah, I agree. She was pretty good. Powell has directed with imagination, but he might well have tightened up the storyline. The standout feature of Peeping Tom is some fascinating photography by Otto Heller, particularly in the film studio sequence. His use of color and shadow is most effective. Heller does much to give Peeping Tom a veneer which the story by Leo Marx does not entirely deserve.
That's not bad, though. I thought it was going to be worse. The review, I mean.
I suppose. The second review I have, Karen, is from the New York Times, dated 10/14/1979, which isn't quite 2025,
No.
but
But it was like
apparently,
20 years ago, so you're good.
yes, apparently it's modern and when the DVD or whatever was released. From the New York Times, as I said. When Michael Powell's Peeping Tom was originally released in England in 1960, the critics rose up like a bunch of furious Reverend Davidsons, whoever that is. Do you know, Karen?
Nope.
Reverend Davidson? All right. To condemn it on moral grounds. It stinks, one critic wrote. Another thought it would be flushed down the sewer, and a third dismissed it haughtily as perverted nonsense. There is nothing angrier than a critic when he can be safely outraged. Mr. Powell's film is about a voyeur, a fellow who is obsessed by his movie camera, which he uses to make his own private snuff films, pictorial records of wanton young women just at the moments of their deaths. The movie's release was one of those rare occasions that allow critics, who are so often accused of promoting smut, righteously to proclaim their decency. The movie died. Now, Peeping Tom, which had an aborted release in this country in a shortened version in the 1960s, has been rediscovered, and what was yesterday's garbage is now being heralded by two of today's critics as powerful and moving, and at once mischievous and compassionate, ironic and evangelistic, comic and tragic. It's got all the stuff, Karen.
Yeah, everything. Checked all the boxes.
Whew. Lots of long words in that one, Karen.
Need to take a sip of your
I do. Of
Peeping Tom Collins.
Peeping Tom Collins.
You're going to be parched after that.
Did I say I was angry that my store did not have Blue Bunny Peeps? That's what I wanted.
Bastards.
I just got a fucking pink peep, just like you do, Karen, apparently.
Well, mine's not fucking. Mine's just a regular pink peep. But you got lucky. That's a special one. Damn it.
I could have got other colors, but I wasn't thrilled by their flavor.
Selection.
Well,
Considering
one was watermelon apple, and another one was birthday cake or something.
Well, because we're talking about it now, there are so many peeps out there, but I'm going to talk to you about Peeps. Peeps, the iconic marshmallow chick candies, were originally made by hand by the Rhoda Candy Company, later acquired by Just Born in 1953. So Peeps have a cult following, of course. Some people love them and some people don't. I like them when they've been left out for months and they're stale. My kids do not like them.
I can do without them.
But
I'll eat them if they're in the house.
So after it was acquired by Just Born, Sam Bourne owned that company. His son, Bob Bourne, spearheaded the development of automated machinery, dramatically reducing the production time from 27 hours, which is how long it would take them to make one tray by hand, down to just, I'm going to tell you, minutes. How many minutes do you think it takes?
Well, how long's the fucking tray? How many can you fit on a tray?
It does not say that.
Well, that's
but 27 hours.
That's an important.
I mean, they come in packs of 8, so I would assume that, right?
I had to buy 10, Karen.
Okay, 10.
That's all
Let's say it takes 27 hours to buy.
I know there are packs of 8 available, but apparently not in my town.
Let's say 10. 27 hours to make 10, down to what?
There ain't much to them, Karen. I'm thinking 3 minutes.
6 minutes. I thought that was impressive. 27 hours down to 6 minutes. And of course, they started with Easter, but they expanded the Peeps line to include other shapes and flavors for various holidays and occasions, which I'm sure you've seen, especially if you like Halloween.
Maybe I have. I don't know.
Well, there are ghost ones.
I'm not a Peep person. Don't care. Well, I'm sure I have seen them, but I just don't remember because there's no space in my brain.
I think they have
for that.
snowmen at Christmas time because you can make
sure
hot chocolate and then you melt the snowman in there. It's cute. Are you done ranting about Peeps or should we keep going?
No, I'm good. Where was I, Karen?
Before you had to disparage Peeps, you were about to tell us what film you've chosen for next week.
Me? Next week?
Yeah.
Next week, we have a listener request, Karen.
We do.
We do.
Is it an identifiable listener request or did they want to stay anonymous?
I think I can give their first name, Karen.
Okay.
His name is Greg.
Oh, how lucky is he?
I know, crazy, right? He's a coworker of mine, and his name happens to be Greg. And he asked if we would do the 2018 film Hereditary.
I've heard good things about that. It's
Have you?
creepy. Yeah, it has a famous actress in it, doesn't it? The one who was
Yeah,
in
look at you.
Uriel's wedding.
I don't know if
Uh,
she is or not. I don't know. Never seen any of those films.
I can't think of her name. Heard it's kind of traumatizing a bit.
You mean Toni Collette?
Yes, Toni Collette.
She's very recognizable, actually. You may not know her name, but you would recognize her if you saw her. I would say. So yeah, he asked if we would do that film,
Okay. Does he
and
have a drink to go with
and
it?
and so we shall. He did not provide a drink, but I found one, Karen.
You should have pushed him to have to find a drink.
I thought about it, but we're coworkers, but
Does he not drink?
I don't know.
If he's a coworker of yours, I'm sure he does.
I don't know. I don't know. He's not on my quote unquote team, Karen.
Oh, at the end of the day, he probably leaves and goes, I work with Greg. That Wallace guy, God. And then he goes to the bar on the way home. Anyway, what's the drink?
So, after reading a brief summary of the film, I have chosen a drink called King of Demons.
Wow. I'm kind of scared as to what that might be. How do we make one?
Okay, we're gonna need 2 ounces of cognac.
We must have that. Do we have that?
Well, I bought mine today.
No, I bet I don't have it then.
Well, you might have it because you're fancier than me. We're gonna need 3/4 ounce blood orange juice. So go to your store and buy one blood orange and squeeze 3/4 of an ounce because
Are they
that's
in
what I'm gonna
season?
do. I got one today, Karen.
Okay.
Then we're gonna need a 1/2 ounce black cherry syrup.
Greg, you're killing me.
And I happen to have black cherry drink, shit you spray in the water. You know what I mean? That
Yeah. Yeah.
flavoring. So I'm going to spray that into some just simple syrup, and I'm going to have 3/4 of an ounce black cherry syrup. That's what
Oh,
I'm going to do.
that's a
Because
good
I couldn't,
plan.
it is available, but you can order on Amazon, but it ain't going to get to you before we have to record next. And we are going to need a blood orange to garnish and sugar to rim our glass.
Okay.
So we're going to shake everything with ice, Karen. Rim our glass with sugar, fill with ice, strain, and garnish. Boom, boom, done.
Okay.
The King of Demons. I'm sure you look forward to that.
I always do.
All right, Karen, are we ready to move into Peeping Tom from 1960, scene by scene?
I am. Are you?
I am. Peeping Tom, 1960. Rating. Karen, did you watch this on Amazon Prime?
I did.
I did as well. Only thing I saw was 13 plus.
Yeah, it was a little surprising, 13 plus.
Well, there's not really anything in it.
There's boobs in it.
So, if you're
Well,
13, you can see
I mean,
boobs.
we've seen R-rated movies for smoking and drinking, so I was just a little surprised. It's fine. I mean,
Are you sure?
yeah, it's not that I care. I was just surprised.
All right. Film begins and we have credits and we see a guy with a camera and he sees a girl on a deserted street. He films her and I wrote his camera it's a cross-haired view as he's looking through the viewfinder, which I thought was interesting. I know my father had a camera very similar to the ones he is using, and his did not have crosshairs. It had more like a square or the corners of a square. Am I imagining that, Karen?
No, usually I can't speak for film cameras as I've not used one
Moving
really.
pictures, film cameras. Yeah.
Yes, sorry. Moving pictures, film camera, what we would call VCRs because that's what we use. But my mom, like a Super 8 or something, my
Yeah,
mom used
yeah.
to make
Or
movies like
16
that,
millimeter super.
whatever.
Yeah. 8 millimeter. Yeah.
But in a camera, if you have that grid, it's usually for composition purposes. There's the rule of thirds and all that. There's different rules that make things aesthetically pleasing. So you can use those guides. Usually you can turn them on or off, but maybe back then you couldn't.
Yeah,
But
my on my dad's camera, it was in the glass. That's it.
so
Somewhere in the what your viewfinder, it was embedded in the glass.
but that's to show you what's going to be included on the film.
Right.
And then this case he had a cross, so right where the
Crosshairs, Karen.
it's right in the middle would show
Yeah,
him right what was right in the
crosshairs,
middle. So there
which
you
is
go.
what you see in like a rifle scope or
I
something
would
like
not
that.
know that at all, but
Well, that was immediately that was interesting to me because there were
and probably
crosshairs.
significant.
Yeah. And I wrote, is she a prostitute?
First I thought, oh, there's a fancy woman. Oh, wait, might be a prostitute.
But she says it cost him 2 quid.
Yeah, so
And I said that reciting into my phone and it put like a funny symbol in beside the two, Karen.
oh, mine just spelled out quid. I always get these things confused, but the quid is the common slang term for the British pound.
Oh, so it's pounds. So that's is a pound sign. 2 pounds.
And the word is almost never pluralized. If you'd like to know other terms that for the pound, there's the smacker, the fiver, and the five note.
Kind of like a buck and a
But if you want to know, 2 pounds is like $50 today. 50
what?
pounds today. 2 pounds in 1960 is equivalent
Okay, to 50.
purchasing
All right.
to 58.86 today.
Do you know the exchange from dollar to pound
This is
currently?
pounds. No, I do not know that because
It's pretty close. I'm
it's
sure it's pretty
changing.
close.
It's changing pretty rapidly right now, I would guess, but I'm not sure. But yes, I'm guessing if she said 2 quid, probably $50 would be my guess. Because you're not going to say 58.86, right? I mean, you might say 60, but I'm guessing it was
You might
50.
say 25, Karen. I don't know.
But she said two, then she'd say a pound.
Ooh.
So she's 2 pounds.
Yeah, I guess you're right. I'll go with that, Karen. And then we see him following her and he throws away a Kodak film box, a yellow Kodak film box, which I have a whole box full of, Karen, that I need to go through. So there.
Yes, he throws away a film box in a garbage can right outside her apartment, walks
Yes.
up the stairs right past a woman,
Yes, he does.
doesn't cover his face, anything.
Nope.
It's like he's trying to get caught.
But it's 1960.
I think they probably would just check the trash.
I don't know. I honestly don't know. I wasn't alive back then, but because that seems like ancient times now. There were no forensics back then. But anyway, then we're in a bedroom, apparently.
I liked her outfit. She has the hose with the line up the back. She had nice shoes. Like, the clothes are cool. They all had such tiny, tiny waists. Just
Well, they were wearing those things.
girdles,
Yeah.
maybe. But
Yeah.
still, all the actresses in this movie have exceedingly small waists.
Then we see light reflecting on the girl's face as she is undressing, and then the camera comes into her and she screams no. I was intrigued. Then we have more credits.
I do say he's handsome
Mark?
in my notes. He's a handsome dude.
And then we see I wrote a guy watching his home movie. So this is
Like Mystery Science Theater.
learn
but
as Mark is watching his own home movie that we just saw him film, right?
yes.
And right here we have the first groovy piano music playing, I wrote. And then we see this Mark character filming the police investigating the murder. And a man comes up to him and asks what paper he is from. And he says, "Oh, the Examiner." And he has kind of like a foreign accent too. Sounds German to me.
Or
Then we,
Norwegian or something like that. Yeah.
then we see him going to work at a bookstore, question mark, I wrote.
It's a newsstand.
Well, it's inside though. You walk into a door.
Yeah,
It's a brick and mortar building. It's a space they're renting. It's not just like a piece of wood on a sidewalk, newsstand, right?
Yeah.
Hello, boys and girls. Karen and I hope you are enjoying the podcast. You know what I think can make your listening experience even better? A delicious, themed adult beverage. You can find all our drink recipes on our website, scaryspirits.com, in the recipe den. Tune in every Wednesday and join us for a drink. Now, back to the show.
A man comes in who I recognize from other films, not necessarily horror films, but I recognize him from other films, comes in and asks for the Times and the Telegraph. I guess that's the London Times, because I think we're in England, aren't we, Karen?
I think so.
I don't know. And the Telegraph. And
From
then
the
he
two
had,
quid, I'm guessing it's England.
yes. And then he says, he asks the shopkeeper, it's like, I've heard, people talk, you hear things that you
Yeah.
might have some views
But there's half naked women pictures all over this
all over the
place.
place.
In the front window,
Outside.
outside, everywhere. That's what I mean by it's all a little overkill. There's no subtlety here
Yeah.
in a lot of this film. There's
This part
nothing subtle.
would have been much better if it was like a reputable bookstore with no naked women on the outside or anywhere. Would have been better if it was like a convenient or
It is kind of like a convenience store because a young girl comes in and
a
buys some candy and leaves,
quick.
but that was just to make the man embarrassed. So,
Yes. So the store owner, I guess, pulls out a book from under the counter and shows him, you mean something like this? And shows him this whole book of pictures. And he's like, oh, I want that one. Ooh, and that one too. And then, oh, how much for the whole book?
yes,
So he buys the whole book and then they put it in a bag that says educational books on
that
the
was funny.
exterior.
And then he leaves without his newspaper, so they have to call him back.
Yes. And then the shopkeeper tells Mark, well, he won't be doing the crossword tonight. So then we see Mark at the photo studio and he's taking pictures of girls in lingerie. I guess the photo studio is upstairs. I mean, it's basically a bedroom upstairs, right?
Yeah, but they have some pretty elaborate sets there.
He does. And then he turns to shoot a girl with a deformed face.
It's her first time. It almost looked like she was beaten up or something. But he says, you won't need to use my face or something. So I don't know. It was
Well, she
kind of
tells
strange.
him she needn't film her face, but he says he wants to.
Right. He gets all excited
Yeah,
about
he
it.
likes her eyes because it's all in the eyes, Cameron.
But the first girl says she almost got killed because
Well, that's what they
she went out
say,
with her
but
boyfriend and her fiance saw them. And
that's
then,
what they say, but it's more like a birth
no, that was the other
defect
girl.
to
And
me.
then she
Okay.
sees this. Millie was the one, says it's the new girl's first time. And it looks like maybe she was burned or hit or I don't know, because she says maybe you can fix my bruises too. So then I thought maybe she was beaten up. I think they're showing that these girls are desperate and that's why they're doing it. They're putting them as, beaten up or have no other options.
And then we cut to who we learn is Helen's 21st birthday, and we see Mark peeping through the window. And then we learn he apparently lives upstairs.
Yeah, she's definitely having a birthday party. They're having cake and
But Helen invites him to her party, and he says he has to work, goes upstairs. And then we see him watching his movie of the police carrying the body out of the first girl. There's a knock at the door. He stops the projector and answers the door. It's Helen. Helen has brought him a piece of cake. Mark invites her in, and he gives her a glass of milk because he
she
wants
drinks
to
like,
offer her a glass of something
yeah,
to drink.
all that he has is milk and she takes it. And she's supposed to be very young and innocent looking. She kind of pulls it off, but
She does.
her hair matches her dress. And a lot of the women in this movie are redheads. I don't know if he has a type or the director had a type or what, but most
The,
of the women are
the
redheads.
casting director had a type.
Yes, that's true. But the birthday cake has a candle on it. It's very sweet.
And in their interactions in this scene, Helen learns that Mark is the landlord. He owns the house. that they're all living in,
He was
and they
born in
pay
it.
him rent.
Yeah.
And then Helen learns that he is a filmmaker and she asks to see his films. And he lets her into his dark room and he begins to show her the film that he was watching of the police earlier, but then he changes his mind and
Yeah, he
swaps it out.
maybe not this one.
So then he shows her a home movie of him when he was a child. And there's a few things in it, but I wrote Mark as a child watching a couple kissy facing.
Well, part of what happens is he's sleeping and then his dad like shines a flashlight in his eyes to wake him up and then films him waking up and then his dad was weird.
Right here, I wrote nice shot because I think it's when the camera reel is like
Yes.
rotating in his eyes and stuff.
Yeah. And
Just
his
a nice
eyes
shot.
match the reel. Yeah, it's really cool.
And then in the movie, we see a lizard crawling on his bed. Mark tries to photograph Helen, but she stops him.
Well, and the boy in the film, which is Mark, is crying, and you hear his father telling him not to cry, but he woke him up and threw a lizard on his bed. Like he's doing weird crap to his kid, basically, and then filming it.
Helen wants to know why Mark's father was filming him at night doing these things. And then Mark asks her to leave. But then we see film of Mark saying goodbye to his mother. It's like her funeral, right? Her
Yeah.
funeral. And then we
And
see cut immediately to her successor, Karen. His father remarried 6 weeks after his mother died. And then we see in the film Mark's father giving him a camera to start him on this path
on
that
his
we know
journey.
for now. So then Helen's seen enough and she turns off the projector, apparently. We learned that Mark's father was a biologist. He was interested in the reaction to fear. And then we see books that say fear and the nervous system. And we
He's
learn that
particularly
he fought
interested in
in
children.
children. Yeah.
Yeah. And he says he was brilliant.
Then
She's
there's
not
a,
impressed, though. She thinks it's all weird, which she should, because it is.
so you would have left right then and never come back. Is that what you're
I
saying,
wouldn't have
Karen?
what if someone offered me milk, I'd have been gone, but whatever. No, I'm just saying he's kind of freaking out the whole
What
time.
do you have against the dairy industry, Karen?
Like the whole time he's watching the movie with her, he's hearing voices in his head and he's physically reacting and reliving it. He's freaking out. And she doesn't understand why a
Well, it's
father
his
would
home
do all this to,
movies.
well, you'd think he's seen it multiple times.
I'm sure he has.
But another man shows up. He's not happy that Helen's up there with Mark.
Yeah, knock at the door, and a guy from Helen's party we saw earlier. I wasn't sure who it was. I didn't know if it was her dad, her brother, her boyfriend, whatever.
I think it's another guy that lived in the house.
Yeah, what we learned later,
Later, we
it's
know that.
probably another tenant in the house, but he's looking for her. Then we cut to I wrote a movie guy talking on a speakerphone, an early speakerphone,
Yeah,
Karen.
that was kind of fun.
Just back when you had to put the handset on a thing to like amplify the
Amplified.
sound.
Yeah.
And then we see Mark working on a film set, and they're trying to get the actress to faint.
Without looking too pretty, but she can't do it.
She does eventually, kinda. A lot better than she had. And then everyone leaves, and we see cars leaving the studio. But then we see who we learn is Vivian listening to a reel-to-reel tape on some
Well,
cool jazz music I wrote.
we see her mouth some. So one of Mark's coworkers says, "Hey, do you want to go get a drink?" He says, "No, I have a date." I was thinking it was with Helen, but we meet Miss Vivian, who is the stand-in for the fancy actress. And she looks at Mark and says something, and then she leaves, and then everybody leaves the studio. So we know it's pretty empty. And then she's got her reel-to-reel recorder while she's putting on makeup, getting ready to go. I thought they were going out.
And she listens to some cool jazz music.
Some cool, groovy jazz music.
Doing her makeup, and she hides from a guard as he comes in and checks the room.
Yeah, I didn't understand what was going on. I'm like, why is she hiding?
She's not supposed to be there.
No, I didn't know that until a few minutes later.
And
Yeah.
then apparently the E stage is very important, Karen, because I wrote it. So we're on E's stage. She enters the stage and the set closes behind her. She calls for Mark, walks around, calls for Mark again, and then lights begin to turn on, focusing on her. So then we see Mark and Vivian, and Vivian is afraid they will get caught filming after hours. Mark says no one will disturb them while the red light is on because he's turned it on.
But
So
then she
everyone
says, we'll
knows
for
they're
sure get
recording.
caught. Yeah, but they won't come in.
Nope, they won't. Then Vivian plays her tape player and dances because she wants to warm up. So
Like,
she dances.
do you remember how Anne Margaret would dance? It's like a modern dance. It always looks
She looks like Anne Margaret a
a
little bit.
little, but the
She's
way
a
she's
redhead.
dancing, it's just that kind of dancing that was very popular for a while. I didn't get it. Whenever I see it, I'm like, it's like cringe, but it was, I mean, she's good.
I mean, it's West Side Story dancing, right?
No,
Yeah, it
it's
is.
just, it's whatever Anne Margaret and Elvis Presley movie dancing, whatever movie they starred in
I don't
together.
even know what that is, Karen.
Well,
I
then
know,
you
I know Anne Margaret was in Tommy, the Who film.
No, it was, I want to say it was Viva Las Vegas, but with Elvis and Anne Margaret,
Could have
but
been.
I don't know for
Don't
sure.
know. But I know she was in Tommy by the Who.
Did she dance like that?
She might have, Karen, now that I think about it.
She's kind of well known for it.
So she dances as Mark builds the set. And then I wrote she dances some more. And I wrote it's pretty good choreography. She's pretty good dancing. It's pretty
I
good
just can't, he
choreographed.
looks creepy,
She's dancing around all the trunks and he's moving them around and stuff. And then at the end, she ends up sitting in a trunk. And
but I
then,
keep saying he looks creepy, he looks psychotic. Why doesn't she leave? Can't she see what he looks like?
so she gets out of the trunk, I guess, and they're playing around the studio or stage there. And
I think
she
he's
gets
told
behind the
her
camera and then he starts photographing her, photographing him. And it's like a whole meta moment there or something.
he's measuring the trunk to make sure she'll fit, all these things.
I didn't see that.
That was when he was building the set. I think he told her for this screen test she was supposed to be act like she was scared to death. Because she said, well, now I'm so happy and relaxed. I can't act that way. So he helps her along.
So then Mark tells Vivian to stand on her mark because he marked a spot on the floor in chalk. And Vivian tries to act frightened. I guess he wants her to act scared. Mark tells her to imagine someone is coming at her that wants to kill her. And then Mark exposes the end of one of the legs of his tripod and tells her to imagine it as a weapon. And I wrote, it's very sharp. That's a weapon. You don't have to imagine. That's a weapon.
No, he takes off. So it's a normal looking tripod, and then he slides off a piece, and there's a knife underneath.
Yeah, it's a weapon.
Definitely.
And then he films as he walks towards her. Then we cut to Helen reading to her blind mother. They talk about Mark. Helen's mom's drinking whiskey. I should have had a whiskey drink, or just straight whiskey, because that's what she's drinking.
A lot of it.
And she says she doesn't trust a man who walks quietly. And I agree with her, Karen.
Yes.
I would not trust anyone who walks
She's
quietly.
the only one who feels like Mark. I thought felt like Mark the way I did, but then she's like, sure, go out with him. That's later, but
Then Helen goes upstairs to see Mark.
the mom says you can go up because Helen just says he's just shy. And then the mom says you can go up, but she doesn't like him.
And as soon as Helen leaves, she quickly pours herself another glass of whiskey.
And I said, mom's a drinker. Is she blind? She
Yes.
almost looks blind the way she drinks.
She is blind.
Yes, but I
And
couldn't tell yet.
cut to Mark developing film, like movie film, I think,
Yeah,
which I never seen before. I'm
me
not
either.
familiar with.
I guess you roll it in
Uh,
developer. It was
If
interesting.
we're to believe what they portrayed, yes.
Yeah, I've never seen it either.
Then we see Helen reading Mark's father's books, and he thanks his son in one of the forewords.
She
book.
comes in and he says, just a minute. So to entertain herself, she pulls a book off the shelf. She didn't just walk in and start reading. He knows she's there.
Then we see Mark gives Helen a 21st birthday present, and it's a dragonfly pin. And she puts it on, but I wrote it's very interesting how they move the same way. They each move their whatever Helen does,
Yes. Should I put it
he
here?
repeats at the
Meaning
same
on,
time. I
oh,
mean,
yeah, like they're mirrored,
yeah,
but she doesn't know whether to put it at the top of the blouse, kind of, or to the right. She decides the right. I wonder if a dragonfly means something. Again, you
probably.
know,
And Helen tells Mark that she is a writer. She writes children's stories, and her first story to be published in a book or whatever is about a magic camera. And she asks Mark to take pictures for the book because our publisher
here
says,
again.
you can't possibly make these pictures. You need to be have them drawn. But no, she wants pictures. So she wants Mark to take these pictures, right?
Yeah. And here in my notes, I say he is such a weirdo. Why doesn't she see he's such a weirdo?
But he
And then
probably takes good pictures, Karen.
maybe she does say her book is about a magic camera and it photographs whatever you think of or something. And then she says the editor told her they'd have to use drawings. She wants to use pictures, like you said. And she says, thanks for listening to me. And they're going to go out tomorrow night or something. And
Yes,
she says,
Mark
thanks for the
asks
present.
her to meet him the next evening to discuss the photos. It's all business, Karen,
Yep.
discussing the photos. Then we cut to the film studio and they're watching dailies. And the director says they need some comedy in the scene they're watching, and they begin to refilm the scene that day. And we see them rehearsing the scene. And we see Mark with his tape measure measuring the distance from the camera to all the actors' faces and whatnot. And then Mark pulls his camera as they open the blue trunk and find the body of Vivian, who's been there the whole time.
Yeah. Which, why did he leave her there? But again, I think he's trying to get caught so he can film the aftermath, or he wants to be present when the body is found so he can do that. The comedy is like she's like, oh, first she wants the white trunk. She's looking at traveling trunks like you would pack and go overseas with or something. And she says, "Oh, do you have a red one? Do you have a blue one?" And he's bringing them and bringing them, but when she asks for the blue one, he has to it's heavy and he has to pull it really slowly and lift it up. But when they open it, they see Miss Vivian.
Then we cut to police discussing the murder of the first girl, the prostitute, who we don't even know her name, but it might be Pauline. I don't know. And the chief has never seen the fear on the face of a girl before. So I'm kind of confused here. We never see any blood or anything. I mean, and they talk about the fear on their face. Are they not all stabbed in the fucking jugular?
That's what they imply, but that's what I'm saying. Like, would fear stay on your face? I think it would have been more effective if we at least saw the look on their face or something. We don't really see anything. Like,
We
just to
don't.
see her face frozen in fear or something. We don't have to have gore or blood or any of that stuff, but you just see him inching closer. You see them being afraid, and then it cuts somewhere else. But the police imply there is a look of being frightened to death, basically,
Then we
even
see
though
the
their jugulars are cut. So, you know,
then we see the police examining the body of Vivian, and she has the look of fear as well, they say.
same look. Yeah.
And we see Mark filming the police investigating. Then we cut to a guy asking Mark about why he's filming the investigation. I think he was waiting outside to talk to police or something.
Yeah. The police are going to talk to everybody. They're like, who do you want to talk to? They said, everybody.
And he says it is for a documentary he's doing.
So, do you think he was really making a documentary if that was just his excuse? But in my summary, it says he's making one, but I couldn't tell if it was just an excuse he was using.
He is making his own private documentary, Karen. Yes, yes, he is. I think.
Also, when he talks to Helen, he says, I hope I'm free tomorrow night, kind of implying maybe I might get busted. Might be over. I don't know.
Yeah. Well,
This-
thought about this as well when he said it, and I'm like, well, maybe he's like a camera dude in a film studio. Maybe he has to work late or whatever. He doesn't know his
I
schedule
think
from
it
day to
means that
day.
he thought he might get
But
caught.
there is that double, whatever. It could be either or. And then the guy Mark is talking to asks, what if they catch him filming this documentary? And Mark says they will because they are very efficient.
Yes. He's seen their work.
Yeah, he is aware. Then we cut to the police questioning Mark, and he tells them he is making a documentary. Phone rings, and I wrote, is it the medical examiner? He's finished with the body of Vivian in the trunk already? I guess his preliminary review. I don't
Yeah,
know.
they can move her, maybe.
And then the chief asks Mark to direct him to the stage where Vivian's body is. So he directs him to where he's going, and then Mark climbs above the stage so he can watch the police and the medical examiner talking about Vivian's body.
There is a moment, so he's about to leave. He thinks, I'm home free. They're letting me go. And right as he reaches for the door, the cop says, oh, wait a minute. And he freezes, and you see this look on his face, but he just wants an escort because he wouldn't be able to find his way back.
Studio E.
Yeah.
So then the police carry the body of Vivian out and they find Vivian's tape player in the trunk underneath her. All the while, Mark is up in the
And they turn it on.
catwalks,
Yes. They turn it on, and jazz comes on, and one of the guys starts dancing.
snapping his fingers. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the pencils and pens fall out of Mark's pocket up in the catwalk. And the police hear the sound but look around but they don't find him.
Even when they use a flashlight and he goes right in front of the flashlight, they miss him.
Then we cut to Helen and her mother talking about Mark. And
Because
then
they're
we
watching the news and it has Vivian's murder on it. And the mom is saying, doesn't Mark work at a studio? I wonder. And they're wondering if they know, if he knows her.
then we see Mark looking in the window, Karen. And he goes in to meet Helen's mother because Helen asks him to come in and meet her mother. And Helen's mother questioned Mark. She asks if Mark knew the girl who was murdered, and he says no.
She also asks him if he's been running because when she shakes his hand, we hear his pulse, which I think has to
Oh,
do
I
with,
didn't hear it.
I did. I think it's one of those things where they say if you lose one sense, your others become heightened. So she, by touching him, she could tell his pulse was racing,
Then Helen and Mark are going to dinner, and Helen asks Mark to leave his camera at home.
which he's uncomfortable doing. He was very uncomfortable when the policemen were interrogating him and he had handed over his camera, just saying, I'm making a documentary, and the policeman was fiddling with it and he was getting very uncomfortable. I get that. Nobody touches your camera.
But Helen opens a room to go to put it away, and Mark tells her this was his mother's room.
So it doesn't look like that room has been rented out. It looks like it's been,
But she has access to it. You just have to go
it's
into
just
any room in
open.
the house.
I don't know. He never locks anything. There's some weird vein through the
Oh
thing where
yeah, or he
he's not
doesn't
allowed
need
to have
keys.
keys or something.
Yeah.
So he's never had a key. And it's weird. Never truly explained. But
So then they walk to a restaurant around the corner. Mark
after
sees
they're
a
distracted by a kissing couple.
Mark sees a
Yeah.
kissing couple and stops and stares. Then we see Mark and Helen eating, and we cut back and forth to the timer in Mark's dark room.
Yeah, I thought something was going to happen, but
Then I have Mark and Helen back at the house. Helen goes to get Mark's camera. Helen plays with it and she turns it towards herself. Mark takes it from her hands. He says it will never film her. Everything it sees, he loses. And then Helen kisses him.
just a little peck, and he's overwhelmed. Then he kisses his camera. I said, he's so weird.
I didn't see that.
Yeah,
He
he
kisses
kisses.
camera?
Yes. I don't know if it's because it was pointed at her or what the deal was, but I'm like, this, he just,
You've never kissed your camera, Karen.
no.
Okay. And then we see Mark in his dark room, I wrote.
Yeah, he runs upstairs and he's watching,
But then Helen's mother is there.
but he's watching a film of somebody dying, I think.
Yeah, one of his
And
films.
and then yeah, the mother's in the room.
And she says she hears him turn on his projector every night and she asks what he is watching. But then Mark is not happy about the film. The lighting is all wrong, Karen.
Yes. So she's blind, so she says a blind person knows about everyone who lives above them because they listen. So she knows where he goes when he gets home and what he does.
So then Mark begins filming Helen's mother.
But wait, there was a really cool shot. So he's watching the film. She says, "This is one room I expected to find locked." He says he doesn't have keys. He says he brought Helen home early, but she wants to talk to him. And then they talk about how she knows what he does every night. But he stands in front of the movie that he's watching while she's there. And it's the woman dying, but the back of his jacket or shirt, the way he is positioned, when it's on his back, it looks like she's a skeleton almost. And on the film in front of him, you can see her. It was really cool. I don't know how they did it. But he says it's no good. The lighting's all wrong. Now I have to find another one. That's where he gets very upset. But the shot right before that was really neat.
Then Mark begins filming Helen's mother. And Mark removes the end of the tripod, but then puts it back on and stops filming. He hands Helen's mother back her cane with her sharp point
Yeah,
on
she
the
has a
end of her
sharp
cane
point on
as
her
well.
cane. Yeah.
And Helen's mother agrees to be filmed for Helen. I don't know, he says something about filming her for Helen, so I don't know. And Helen's mother tells Mark all the filming isn't healthy and he needs help and should get it.
She's implying, I think she knows
Yeah.
what he's doing. And she says, you can't see Helen
Yeah,
until you get help.
this scene is a back and forth, blah, blah, blah. I know, whatever.
And
And
he says, I would never photograph Helen. And she says, you're not even going to see her unless you get help.
yeah, so Mark promises he will never photograph Helen. Helen's mother threatens to move out of the house, and Mark tells her they will never have to move because of him. And then Mark helps her down the stairs. And then at the bottom of the stairs, Helen's mother feels his face, like she's seeing him, whatever. And she asks him what is troubling him. He says goodnight, and she says he will have to tell someone.
Yes. But when she's feeling his face, he says, are you taking my picture? Or are you
Yes.
filming me now or something?
Yeah.
I thought that was pretty cool.
She said taking my picture is what he said. So then next day on the film set, there's a psychiatrist there watching. They're
Why
refilming.
is he there? Oh, for the actress, I think, maybe.
They are refilming the trunk scene only with hats instead of trunks. And
Yes.
I
So
wrote
as not to traumatize her more.
but she does. She freaks out.
Yeah.
Actress freaks out. So then Mark asks the psychiatrist if he knew his father.
After he takes him up in the rafters.
Yes.
Away, because the police are there watching.
Yes. And the psychiatrist says, "Oh, yes, I did." And then they talk about Peeping Tom.
Well, they say how brilliant he was, but then Mark says he asks about scopophilia.
Scopophilia. Is that what you said, Karen?
Scopophilia or scoptophilia is the aesthetic pleasure drawn from looking at an object or a person, which is pretty broad. In human sexuality, the term scoptophilia describes the sexual pleasure that a person derives from looking at objects of eroticism, such as pornography, the nude body, and fetishes. But there was a part on Wikipedia about its use in cinema, and they say in Psycho, directed
Well, I'm
by
not sure that's a Peeping Tom, is it? But go on.
its use in cinema, they talk about in Psycho, directed by Alfred Hitchcock, the protagonist, Norman Bates, is a voyeur whose motel rooms feature peepholes. In the course of the story, the hotel manager, Norman, spies upon the anti-heroine as she undresses in her private room. And Peeping Tom, directed by Michael Powell, Scopophilia is mentioned as a psychological affliction of the protagonist, Mark Lewis. As a narrative cinema, Peeping Tom is a deliberate exercise in voyeurism for the protagonist and for the spectator, which demonstrates how readily the protagonist and the spectator are mentally willing and morally capable of watching atrocities, tortures, mutilation, and death that should not be gazed upon as narrative movies. The mentally ill protagonist acted as he acted, consequence to severe mental mistreatment in boyhood by his filmmaker father. The paternal abuse mentally malformed Mark into a reclusive, introverted man comfortable with torturing and killing people. So here's the thing. It's impossible to provide a precise number of people affected with scopophilia, as its concept explored in psychoanalysis. It's not a medical diagnosis. Sigmund Freud introduced the term to describe pleasure derived from looking, which can include both voyeuristic and exhibitionist tendencies. But just looking at something, I mean, you can look at a piece of art and say, that's really cool. Does that mean you have this? I don't know. It's not recognized in the Manual of Mental Disorders. It's important to note that the pleasure of looking is a normal human experience, and scopophilia is, as a psychoanalytic concept, doesn't necessarily equate to a problem or a disorder. Oh, but here, it's important to distinguish scopophilia, the pleasure of looking, from scopophobia, the fear of being looked at. I don't know. I think they pulled a term that was close, but I don't know. But he's trying to, so he must really like Helen because he's trying to figure out what was wrong with him. And the best part of this was he wants to know, is there a cure? And the psychiatrist says, yeah, it's pretty easy to fix. Just a couple of years of analysis 3 times a week and you'll be fine. I was like, that's pretty funny.
And psychiatrist gives Mark his card.
And he wants to know, are there any papers left? Do you have anything of your father's? Because I guess his father was considered brilliant.
Next, I wrote the police observed this whole thing.
He's very careless.
And then we see the guy who we saw earlier shows Mark a slide of a woman because he holds it up like they can both see from either side. So I think it's a slide.
Yeah, from a large format camera.
Well, of course.
That's just what makes it a bigger negative. It's a large negative. Well,
Thank you.
slide, but it's not a negative. It's a slide, but it's big.
Thank you, Karen.
Well, they don't have to get a little eyeglass thing out to look at it.
Thank you, Karen. And then we see the police questioning the psychiatrist. And the psychiatrist tells the chief that Mark was asking about voyeurism. He doesn't use the word peeping Tom. He uses voyeurism because it has a fancier word for it. Then the chief asks the sergeant to tail Mark. So they're going to follow Mark wherever he goes.
Well, and when the one guy shows Mark the picture, he goes, oh, that gives me an idea. And the guy's like, I bet it does. And then, so Mark's going to go take some more pictures and they're tailing him.
So Mark arrives at work at 6 p.m. and he films outside his bookstore with the girly pictures all over the windows. And
first he went to the library to watch Helen.
As you do.
So, and that was a cool shot too. And again, so Helen comes out of the library. Mark's watching Helen.
I don't remember this part, honestly. But go on.
So he's a voyeur watching Helen, but then there's a long alleyway,
yes,
and the cop is at the other end of the alley.
Yes.
So he's watching he's watching Mark watch
Helen, yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I got that. So
then he goes to take the pictures upstairs.
Yeah, bookstore owner gives Mark a key to lock up after he is finished photographing Millie upstairs and tells him to put it through the mail slot.
And he's all excited he got a key. There's something there with the key that I just didn't get, but.
And then Mark films the police officer outside.
Because he knew. Yeah.
And then Mark films Millie and we see 2 bare breasts because they're doing the nudie stuff on the bed that evening, Karen. Mark leaves and locks the door. He puts the key through the mail slot like the shop owner asks. Mark gets on his Vespa scooter, Karen, and he drives off. The policeman follows.
He hails a taxi. Yeah.
Cut to the house, and Helen goes up to Mark's room, but he ain't there. And
She
I
just
wrote,
walks in.
she walks in, and Helen leaves a book for Mark? Question mark. And next, I
Yeah.
have police officer reporting Mark's actions to the chief.
Which didn't seem to be suspicious. He went to the library for a minute, then he went to do his other job.
Back in the house, Helen starts the projector and watches Mark's movie. One of Mark's movies. I don't know which one it is, but it's one of them.
But she just walked. I mean, this is a total violation of privacy. She just walks in, walks to the back room where his work is, starts the
In
projector, and
his
watches the
house.
movie. Yeah, and it was just like,
Yeah, I
I mean, she
agree,
doesn't
Karen.
start it right away. You can see the internal struggle
No, I no, I did not
because she's
see that
leaving
at
the
all.
book and all, and then she just can't take it anymore.
She watches the movie and she is shocked and appalled, apparently, Karen.
Yes.
And then Mark arrives and tells her to leave, but then Helen asks him about the film. It's horrible, but it's just a film, isn't it? Isn't it? Isn't
Yes.
it? And then Mark says, no, he killed them all.
Well,
So
and he says, "Your mom was right. I have to tell someone. I'm sorry. It has to be you."
he came clean very quick there, I thought.
Yeah, it didn't take a lot of prodding.
But he does ask Helen to stand in the shadows so he cannot see her afraid, because apparently that's his trigger. Karen, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then we see the shop owner of the newsstand calling the police. I guess he found Millie's body upstairs.
And that's when they put all the pieces together.
Mark reveals that his father had all the rooms wired for sound. That's a new thing.
Yeah.
And they still are, Karen.
Yep. And he turns them on.
He turns her
Well, he
on.
has recordings of it. So he
Well,
has,
here's what you said in your bedroom the other night.
yeah. And the guy downstairs is like, "You don't have time for me anymore."
Then Helen asks, she doesn't care about that apparently, but
No, that's fine.
she wants to know what Mark did to the girls. She asks him to show her. He wants him to show her?
And
Whatever.
she's still trying to hug him, but he keeps saying he doesn't want to see her frightened. She didn't look frightened to me.
But then Mark pulls the spike on Helen on his tripod there. And this is the first time we see there's a mirror there.
Yeah,
So
which we didn't see before.
he forces the women he killed to see their own faces as they die.
That's pretty bad.
But Mark cannot bring himself to kill Helen, Karen. He's a good boy.
Yeah, see, he's all right.
Police arrive. Mark breaks the window and films the police officers arriving. And then Mark mounts the camera with the spiked tripod pointing out on a joist or wall joist in his flat. I don't know what he's doing here. And
I knew what he was trying to do.
he turns on the reel-to-reel tape player of all the recordings from the room. So he's got like 8 reel-to-reels there and all these noises coming from the rooms.
I thought they were of his father.
No, the rooms.
Oh,
Mark runs towards the spike as the cameras flash and photograph him. He's got all kinds of cameras on tripods positioned all around this space, and they all flash and photograph
as
him.
he approaches his death. Yeah.
Yeah. And he stabs himself in the neck with the spike.
She
And,
almost pushes him into it because she runs up behind him. But
and he collapses. And right here is when I realized, holy shit, that's how all the women in this film died, and we saw no blood. They were stabbed in their jugular, and we had no blood.
we still don't hear.
And we don't hear. But I'm not sure it's less effective. Police arrive and break down the door. And then we see the note that Helen wrote in the book. It says, from one magic camera which needs the help of another. Then I wrote, Mark gone. He's dead. Police have arrived and they tell Helen she will be okay. And then we
They
hear
say the
Mark's,
girl's alive. Yeah.
and then we hear Mark's father say, don't be a silly boy. There's nothing to be afraid of. And then we hear young Mark say, good night, Daddy. Hold my hand. The end. The end, boys and girls. All right, Karen, any comments on the Peeping Tom Collins?
I like it.
It's a Tom Collins with a peep in it, right? Isn't that what it is?
It's a gin Tom. Yeah, I guess Tom Collins is normally made with gin, but you can make it with vodka too. But yeah, I think it's cute. I think it'd be fun to serve at Easter. Have
Mine
an
has
Easter.
evaporated and my peep has disappeared.
It's magic.
I don't know where it went.
Wow. Take it over for your Easter
Here one
dinner.
minute, gone the next. I don't know. Maybe I'll find a little peep running around later
Yeah,
tonight.
that wouldn't be scary at all.
Nah. It was
It's a
good.
fucking peep, though. You don't know. It could have serious evil intentions.
A fucking pink peep.
Yeah.
And shit, I got like 9 more in the fucking freezer, Karen.
It's terrible.
About to be delicious though. I'll bite their heads off
What are
tonight.
you doing? Your gift of a wife. What are you doing? Just using the ice cubes.
Yes, I told her. She says, "Why do you buy peeps?" Well, that's what we're using for ice cubes in Karen's next cocktail.
I say we try to deep fry them, but whatever.
I'm sure you can. No, you can. So, anything we learned today, Karen?
We learned about what a quid is, some other slang terms for the pound, how much 2 quid is worth today or approximately today. Of course, I don't know. Yeah, that's about right. And scopophilia and about peeps.
How is scopophilia different from voyeurism?
It's I think it's kind of this. I think it's levels. I would guess if you really had.
Levels of sexual gratification?
No, I think it's more if that's voyeurism is probably an extreme case of scopophilia, would be my guess. There's probably a level of, you know.
Thank you, Dr. Karen.
No, I mean, I'm saying, so if you look at girly pictures, that's one thing. If you have to look at girly pictures all day long, every day, that's a completely different thing.
Well, I got this Hammer Glamour book, Karen. I don't know.
If you have to look at it all day long, every day, that would be a problem. If you'd like to peruse it once in a while, it's probably okay.
Uh,
Everything in moderation.
I ain't got time for that all day long. All right. Anyone you need to thank this week, Karen?
We're going to thank our listener because there's a lot of podcasts available to you, and we really appreciate that you spend time with us. Who do you need to thank, Greg?
Karen, I'm going to thank our friends and listeners in the Lone Star State.
Texas?
Yes, Karen, Texas.
Wow.
I like Texas. I could live there, I think.
Okay.
Thank you for supporting the Scary Spirits podcast. And also, there's a link to our survey in the show notes. Take that survey. Tell us what you like and don't.
But don't hurt Greg's feelings.
Or Karen's. And I want to thank the band Verse 13 for providing all the music in the Scary Spirits podcast.
The music definitely makes the podcast better.
Anything else, Karen?
Please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to the Scary Spirits podcast, where the movies might be iffy, but the drinks are always solid. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast, or go to our website, scaryspirits.com. And if you want the direct line, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. If you really want to help us out, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. And remember, always drink responsibly. See you next week.